So 50 Shades of Grey, the book has been made into a film, being released on February the 13th, just in time for Valentine's Day. Nothing like a bit of S&M and, you know, sexual grooming and violence, domestic violence and imbalance of power and money to get your romantic juices flowing. Excuse the pun. I've read all the books. I came to the conclusion that Anna Steele was a wimp in the vein of Mills and Boon heroine. Use heroin the loosest term possible. And Christian Grey is just a misogynistic bully. Imagine he's a young Alan Sugar with far too much money and far too much time on his hands. Doesn't do nothing for me. The Guardian states it's not a porn movie, it's tastefully shot, it's a love story. Yep. A love story with gags and blindfolds and whips and a pain room. Yep, that's what I think of when I think of a love story. Not. Well, here's my beef. Feminism aside, this is a story of a young innocent female groomed by a rich man to be his sexually subservient slave. It's a fantasy and perpetuates the myth that as long as one person's rich beyond rich, then they can own somebody else and make them do whatever they want. And if you think this is crap, look at any wannabe wag. She'd sell herself to have a limitless credit card, a big house, some designer labels, and a footballer boyfriend who partakes of the odd roast and frequents the odd brothel when he's away from home. Hang your head in shame, Colleen Rooney. You took him back knowing he was a sleazeball because you couldn't part with the life. Anyway, would this have worked if Anna had been Sally from the co-op? Or, Christian Grey would have been Dean, who's got a good job in the NatWest? No, it wouldn't. Because it would have been tacky. It would have been sleazy, sad and tacky. But, there's middle-class housewives everywhere who are, like, pissing themselves with excitement over the thought of the book and a bit of titillation with their husbands. Get a life. For me, call it Stockholm Syndrome, call it domestic violence, call it sexual grooming, call it bullying, S&M. Just don't call it love. I've written 2 poems. The first one I wrote before the books were even considered being made into a film. And the first one's called 50 Shades of Fucking Weird, also known as Nice Cockring Vicar. Middle-class housewives everywhere have discovered 50 Shades of Grey. And book groups since page 60 are becoming quite risque. Sneaky reads on school runs, hot flushes in 4 doors, are leaving the women of Middle England panting and wanting more. And summers are delighted. The sale of ball gags and bondage ties, while equestrian centres are confused, as despite the recession, the sale of riding crops is on the rise. Discussions held on Facebook casually mention words like butt plug and vanilla. But I have words of warning for the readers of this bondage bodice ripper. In the past I frequented a fetish night, witnessed images that have haunted me. The unsightly squash of male genitals when encased in see-through PVC. Couples who held their partners and dragged them round in a dog collar and choke chain. The oddly named playroom, which in truth was a room for pain. The whips, the paddles, the crucifix, studded belts and wooden canes, and other instruments of torture so historical, still don't know their name. But of all the perversity I encountered, the worst I've ever seen was a group of closet transvestites who dressed as Margaret Thatcher and the Queen. Now, I quite fancied owning a slave, thought he'd be handy with the mop, and Rubber's so practical when doing housework, but his gas mask put me off. Despite the voyeuristic value in the education, the scene appeared somewhat seedy. The people weren't exotic and exciting, just middle-aged, a bit desperate and needy. I was put in mind of Michael Hutchins, all rock star glamour, hedonism and sleaze. But what's exotic about dying hanging from your belt, with your pants around your knees? Now there's nothing wrong with a bit of kinky. I reckon the Beckhams even have their scene. Both wearing Primark in the bedroom, watching QVC, whilst troughing on ice cream. But there may come a point when you question, where will all this stop, as you prowl across your bedroom and rubber knickers flexing the riding crop? Your partner suspended from the ceiling, naked in a swing. He's beaming with anticipation while you're thinking, this just ain't my thing. You'll miss your weekly 20 minutes minutes sandwiched between the news and footy highlights, when sex was a set of tried and tested moves, minus whips and fishnet tights. And getting ready for bed meant washing your armpits and brushing out your hair, not 4 hours of talcum up the bodysuit and fixing on the bondage gear. And safe words were phrases like, never lie, my love, might be because you're cold. Not random words like purple lorry because you've reached your pain threshold. So ladies, enjoy the titillation from the book. There's no harm in a bit of tease, but leave the dark stuff to the professionals, the clergy and MPs. Thank you. Then, when they said they were going to make 50 Shades of Grey into a film, I was even more incensed because I thought, you know, a book's a book, people can choose, I mean, people can choose whether they want to go and see a film. But my concern is, like, you know, working with certain people that I've worked with, that, you know, 50 Shades of Grey is normalising violence against women to some extent, providing that the person who's doing the violence against females, or violence against anyone, is like rich and sexy and handsome, then they can get away with what they want. Well, you can't. So I wrote a poem, it's called That Book. They're making a film of that book, 50 Shades of Grey, aimed at middle class sad bastards whose sex life has faded away. It's supposed to be a sexy romance. They're releasing it on Valentine's Day because every woman's fantasy is to be dominated by Christian Grey. Now, I'm no prude or Wilton Wallflower. I've read from Nancy Friday's Women on Top. I'll never forget reading about the Griller. I even own a riding crop. The book and the film are a step too far, filled with sexist, violent crap. I do women thinking, forget the tickle. All the women really want is a slap. That we can be battered until we're black and blue and expensive presents will heal the pain. I assessed men like that on probation and sent the offenders to jail. And I'm not against bondage if that's your thing, or role play if that's how you get your kicks. But I'm against a woman being bullied by a rich man. And if you think this is love, you're just fucking thick. Money doesn't make up for everything. It doesn't allow you to be a bullying twat. Despite what politicians say or do, we have laws against that crap. Equality is not just a buzzword. People fought and died to get the vote. And women's lib's all too important to have it demonised by a chauvinistic scrote. And I know it's just a book or a film, but this philosophy bleeds into people's thoughts. I don't want young men believing that women's obedience can be bought. So, if you think, I'll surprise my girl, tie her to the bed and beat her with a whip, be prepared to take your turn tied up. See how you like getting hit. I suppose what I'm saying is a fine line between consenting adults being involved in S&M games where they're both consenting and up for whatever they're doing and have their limits and agreed limits, which most people who are serious about S&M do, and have specific roles, not determined about how rich they are or, you know, whether they're handsome enough to buy somebody else off. And the other side of that thin line is basically violence against women, taking it a step too far, not being compliant in what you're doing because you don't really understand. And if you read the books, if you look at Anna's character, you know, this is her first experience of sex, she's a virgin, and you think, I have issues with that because I'm thinking, is it a love story? Somebody's first understanding of sex is violence, and like, is somebody else dominating them? And for me, I had real issues with that because I thought, this is borderline domestic violence against somebody who doesn't know any different. And by the end of it, you think, okay, she gets into it, but does she? Or is it just something, you know, you can get used to a hole in her head if you've had it long enough. So personally, I've issued for the book because Anna Steele is not like a woman of the world. She's not going into this relationship with her eyes open saying, hey, I'm into this. She's a woman who doesn't know any different, and this is her first experience of sex. That's what I have a problem with. That's why I think this book is about sexual grooming, and that's not healthy. Anyway folks, that's enough of me. Speak to you soon. Bye.